Morning, morning, morning. Yes, we're back with another episode, another rider. Today we have the lovely lady Mo in the house, but I'm sure she's going to pronounce her name in the correct way, and she's an architect. So she has a love for construction just as I do, as an ex-site manager. So nice to have you here today.
Hello, nice to be here. Thank you, Simon. This is such a great idea.
Okay, thank you. So why architecture?
Why architecture? I'll tell you. I really wanted to study art.
Okay.
And my dad said to me, what if nobody buys your paintings? So I switched over to architecture.
And did he approve of the switch?
Yes, obviously, he did.
He was very happy.
He was very happy.
So where did you study? How long did it take you?
I was at the Kingston College of Art.
Okay.
And then I went to the Architectural Association School of Architecture in London.
Okay. Now, being an architect, did that cut your appetite for art? Or do you still feel you need to do other art?
Well, I have to say, I've been practicing for 40 years now.
Okay.
And the type of architecture that I practice is, architecture is an art, okay, in itself. But the type of architecture that I have always practiced has art infused into the architecture. So it's either when I design, there's a very deliberate placement of art within the building, or there is art as part of the building. So art is in so many different forms. Art is in structure, art is in painting, art is in, art is art, art is life.
So you managed to feed your desires?
I did, but there's still now I want to express my art in a different way. Not in the built environment, but maybe I want to paint or photography or crafts or something.
Now, I do another podcast called Africa Investor Stories.
Okay.
And what I'm thinking, have you ever considered investing in Africa in the sense of architecture? Because you could also express yourself in African art, African structure.
That is where I practice. My practice is in Africa.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yes.
I assumed it was here.
No, it's
mistake.
not. Yes,
Okay.
my practice is in Africa.
So how has your experience been doing architecture in Africa?
It's been great. The profession, it teaches you, one, nobody will give you work because you're a man or a woman. So it's whether you're good or you're not good. So I would say it's blind in a certain way. So you put in a bid, it doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman. Your client either likes your work or they don't. So in that regard, I've been, reasonably successful in my profession.
Okay. How many years have you been doing it for, and what have you learned over that years that you wish you knew when you had started?
That's a great question. If I had known, you see, you study architecture for 7 years, like a doctor, okay? Now, everybody who comes to me and says they want to practice architecture, I say to them, go and study marketing, go and study accounting, do business in any form, because you come out, you graduate like an artist. But you're coming into the real hard world where you're talking finances, you're talking business, you're talking marketing, but you don't have any of those skills. So that's what I would have done if I was starting all over again.
Would you throw psychiatry in there, understanding people?
Oh, that is a key component of it. If you don't understand people, you can't design. You're almost like a doctor. Let's say you're designing somebody's home. I've had experiences where the client has said, I need 2 toilets in the same bathroom, because in the morning, that's when myself and my wife, that's when we have our discussions before we both go to work in 2 different directions, right? So you get very, very interesting briefs, and you have to keep them to yourself, because you're not going to share with anybody whether they have 2 separate rooms or they have a double room together, or, there's so many intimate things that could go into designing that come from your client's core desires.
Okay. So when that was said to you, did you manage to keep a straight face?
You have to, you're only human. You can laugh because it's a funny request, but you still have to get it done.
Okay. Well, it's an interesting request because it shows how intimate
Exactly.
they are. And that's a
Exactly.
solid relationship.
Very solid.
If you can do that,
Yes.
regardless of the time,
Yes.
yeah, then, kind of take my hat off to you
Fabulous.
and stuff. What would you say to your 16-year-old self?
What would I say to my 16-year-old self? Do what you have to do what you want to do.
Okay, I like that. I like that. It's quite original. Do what you have to do what you want to do.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything you would do different, looking back on the years?
Well, not really, to be honest. I was in a cab this morning and the guy was saying, "Oh, would you like to turn back the clock?" I've never wanted to be younger at any point in time. I enjoy each stage of my life. I enjoy being the age that I am. Would I do anything differently? No, I enjoy the mistakes that I made. I enjoy the wildness, the naughtiness, the craziness. I've done most things that are within reason.
Yeah.
Within the limits of reasonableness. Yes.
Where was your practice based? Was it in Lagos?
Yes, it was in Lagos.
And how has the architectural industry changed over the years?
The industry is more 360. It's more 360 design. Well, the way we practice, it's a multidisciplinary practice. So we take into our design, we take into film, graphics, branding, architecture, interiors, art. So all that is infused into our design.
I'm sure you know architects in London.
Yes.
What do you think architects in London can learn from Nigeria? And what do you think Nigerians can learn from architects can learn from London?
That is such a great question.
Thank you.
Architects in Nigeria have freedom. We have a lot of new build. Okay, so you can express yourself as wildly as you like. We have fewer constraints about planning, fewer restrictions on, keeping to, form, type. Don't have as many listed buildings. We have one or two, but not really that many. What could we learn from architects here? Discipline, process, and you have to your craziness has to be within a certain boundary, you know what I mean? So freedom from us, discipline from...
When you say
UK.
your craziness in a certain boundary, what kind of craziness?
Creativity has to have its bandwidth, its limits. You just can't be creative and just do wild and wacky things, right? But you have to let's say it's between 1 and 20 and then be creative between that. You can't just have no boundaries. That's my thinking.
Okay.
Because, yeah.
I know you spoke privately about why you gave your practice to a younger person or allowed your younger person to take over, but would you mind repeating that, please, for the...
Well, the new world, the reality of 2022 requires a certain type of thinking, which some people in their 60s have, but I certainly don't. It requires agile thinking. It requires a certain agility is really what I would say. 360 degrees, younger people think faster,
Okay.
and that for me, that is what is required to face design challenges of today. At the same time, they do consult me when they get into trouble.
So they go, let's go back to Mom.
Yes,
Mommy Mo. We need your help.
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm not totally extinct.
Yeah.
So they do come back to me for certain things. What do you think about this? And what do I sort of keep one eye, not a very, one half eye shut. Looking at what's going on.
Well, that says a lot about your personality that they come back to you, and it also says a lot about your personality that you can recognise the change, because some people would fight that change.
No, you shouldn't fight it. Okay. I learned a lot from it. I tell you something. I was sharing this with a friend of mine. I went into the practice a few months ago, and they looked up. Somebody was about to say, "Can I help you?" Right? And the admin person said, no, it's okay. that's that's her.
Yeah, that's the boss.
Yeah, and it was great. It was great. They had no clue who I was, and they were just working away, music going, very vibey environment. You know how.
Did they change afterwards? Did they go, oh, sorry?
No, they didn't. They just carried on.
Okay, so they knew they were doing their work.
Yeah, it was no big deal. They didn't have to impress anybody. They weren't, they didn't have to sit up. They just were carried on without skipping a beat.
Okay, that's good. We're coming to the end of the journey.
Yes.
What would you say to anybody who wants to be an architect and own their own practice? What is the words of wisdom you would give them?
Architecture has changed. It has changed. The master builder craft, as we know it from the origins of architecture, has really changed. You have to be so... I say that and I'm just about to contradict myself, because the master builder is a multi-skilled person.
Mm-hmm.
And it still has to be a multi-skilled person. Maybe the skills have just become... they're different, but you still have to be a multi-skilled person. So, I don't know. Have I contradicted myself?
No.
What was the question again? I think maybe I forgot.
No, you've answered the question perfectly. There's no...
It's changed, but it hasn't.
Yeah, you've managed to work with it. You've answered it. But thanks a lot for that. If people are interested in, like, let's say, investing in Africa and doing architecture, or not architecture, but they need an architect, where could they find your firm? What's the name of your firm?
Whoa. moeaa.com.
Okay, moeaa.com.
aa.com. moeaa.com.
Okay, and as you're a very wise lady, I got one last question I'm going to ask you, which is, if the world's standing in front of you, 7.5 billion people, and they're looking for one sentence of wisdom from you based on your life experience so far, what would that be? No pressure.
Do you?
Do you? Okay. Well, thanks a lot for that, and we wish you well. We hope that episode enhanced your life. We post an interview every day, as well as vlogging on our social media channels. Don't forget to subscribe to get our latest episode.